Hey, it's Michael, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me for another session. Um, the title of this video is Why 95% of Your Leads Don't Buy. And so 95% is a little bit of a loose number, but it's a very useful number and it is very close to reality. And so we're going to dive into this today because it is the number one problem that causes most advertising not to work properly. That is, you send out a sales message to an audience, and either you're not getting enough leads or the right kind of leads, or you're not generating sales. What I'm about to share with you is the number one cause for failed advertising. Now, first, we have to understand that there are three critical elements that make up any good advertisement. One, you need to have a relevant target market, a group of people who have a problem that you're able to solve. So your market is first. Then you have a sales message that you communicate to them that helps them understand that you offer a solution to the problem that they have. So market, message, and then media. And by media, I just mean a means of communicating with your audience. And you want to choose the ideal media for them. So if they're in a younger audience, they're probably going to be online. They're going to be on social media. If they're an older audience, maybe they do more direct mail or maybe email, maybe even things like the yellow pages. Dan Kennedy famously still recommends that people use the yellow pages, especially if they're marketing to boomers. Why? Because depending on who your market is, they have certain habits that they've developed over the years about how and where they get information from. And so you need to make sure that you nail market, message, and media. Today, we're going to talk about the number one problem in advertising, which is misalignment between your market and the message that you communicate to them. So let's talk about that. As I mentioned before, your message needs to help your customers along their conversion journey. And what happens most often, the number one reason why advertising fails is that the person who's advertising assumes too much. They assume that their customer is more ready to buy than they actually are. And so the sales message that they send them presumes that the person they're talking to is already really eager. It's like they're sitting on the edge of their seat just waiting to buy. And the truth is, only about 2 to 5% of your audience are in that bucket because you have different shades of readiness to buy. You have a whole swath of people, 95%, who are in various stages of either I don't even know who you are and I don't even know about your product to, okay, I know about you, but I'm not so sure about you. And then you have another subset that's like, okay, I think you're probably the right one for me, but I'm not totally sold. And then you've got yet another group of people who are basically like, yeah, I'm pretty sold, but there's just this one thing that's holding me back. And excuse me. And then last of all, pardon me. Sorry about that. And then last of all, you have a bucket of people who are basically just waiting for the right opportunity to buy. They're already totally sold. They're already totally committed. They're just waiting for a special deal, a price drop, something like that, just to give them an excuse to pull the trigger. But again, those people represent only 2 to 5% of your audience. But the problem is, if you notice, if you look at advertising in the world right now, most of the advertising you see assumes that you are in that 2 to 5% range. They'll do things like they'll show you the product, they will give you a price, and they'll give you the name of the company. That's what most advertisers do these days. And that would work if you're in the top 2 to 5%. If you're part of the lower 95% who's not quite ready to buy, of course, those advertisements don't work because they're not meeting you where you are. And that's exactly the problem that I'm trying to explain here. And then at the end of this video, I'll give you some solutions. So let's talk about this. If you fail to meet your customer or your prospect where they are, you're going to be asking for too much too soon. You're going to be asking them to make a commitment to you long before they are ready to make a commitment. In marketing, there's a cliche that goes something like this. If you ask your prospect to purchase from you too early, it's like asking someone to marry you on the first date. The reality is, even if that person would have married you at some point, if you ask them at the wrong time, they will say no. And so in advertising and in business, it's the same thing. If you have the right person and you have the right message, but you send it to them at the wrong time or in the wrong way, then they're going to deny you just as harshly as if they weren't even the right person to begin with. Okay, so what do you have to consider to make sure that your message is really dialed into where your prospects are? If the problem is that you're communicating, or if the problem in most advertising is that you are communicating in such a way that only the top 5% will relate while neglecting the total 95%, here's what you have to understand. In order for someone to buy from you, to get into that top 2 to 5% and be just eager and waiting to buy, they have to be convinced of 6 things. 1, that they have a problem that they need to solve. 2, that you have a solution that can help them solve that problem. 3, that your solution is better than all of their other possible solutions they could choose, so you're the ideal fit for them. Number 4, that you can deliver on your promises. Number 5, they have to believe that they are able to do their part to make the dream outcome a reality. And then lastly, number 6, they have to understand and they have to believe that doing business with you would be a bargain, that they'll be proud of the decision, that they'll be able to brag about it to their friends and coworkers, etc. Okay? So they have to be convinced of those 6 things. And if they are, then that person is now in the top 5% of your audience, and they would respond well to an ad that basically just had a picture of your product with a price and then a way to conduct an order, whether it's a phone number to call or a QR code to scan. That's all they need if they are in the top 5%. If they are not, if they're in the 95%, they will see that ad and it will do nothing but irritate them, because ads that are irrelevant are just inconveniences, and they're irritants, and people feel bothered by them and burdened by them, because we see so many ads all the time that if someone sees an ad, they're just going to roll their eyes because it has nothing to do with them. It's just there to annoy them. That's what happens. And that's not harmless. I'll explain in a moment how that's actually really bad. The reality is, if somebody is in the lower 95% of your audience, there's no amount of brute force hard selling that will pull them out of the lower 95% and put them into the upper 5%. You have to be very intentional about how you handle these people. And if you fail to handle them, then you will only be getting the low-hanging fruit in your market. And that's, at best, that's, maybe that's enough to get by. But if you really want to flourish in business, you need to be getting the most that you can from the biggest portion of your market as possible. And that's what I hope to help you understand and help you adopt some practical steps to rectify today. Okay. So we've established the problem. Now we know what a prospect has to believe in order to do business with you. There are 6 things. So if you want to convert that lower 95%, you have to convince them step by step to believe those 6 things. You have to take them from a lower level of engagement and a lower level of awareness and desire and move them step by step from a less ready to buy state to a more ready to buy state until finally they arrive at a state that is basically like, please just take my money. Just take my money and give me X, Y, or Z in return. Please just do it. You need to get them to that point. And so let's talk about how you can do that. The first thing that you have to do is you have to understand that you can't do it all at once unless you are writing a flawless 2,000-word sales letter. There's no way that you're going to be able to reach out to someone who is very low, who has very low buying desire, and suddenly convert them into a white hot ready to buy lead. It's not going to happen. So you need to understand that this is going to take time. It's going to take energy. It's going to take creativity, and it's going to take repetition. You're going to have to reach out to this person and communicate with them multiple times, moving them just a little bit at a time, closer and closer and closer to a buying decision. And I will tell you how to do that right now. Here are, what do we have? We have 6 practical takeaways. So if you, anybody can do the top 5%, throw out a picture of the product with the price, and here's a link, go and order it. Anybody can do that. That's the top 5%, but it takes skill and attention to get this lower 95%. And here are 6 ways that you can start doing that. First of all, focus your the messaging that you send them. Focus it exclusively on them and their desires and their fears. Nothing else. Nothing else. Some ads that I've seen and some ads that have performed very well targeting the lower 95% don't even have the name of the product or the name of the business in the ad until the very, very end. So they've got a whole bunch of content that's really just about the prospect, for the prospect, fleshing out their fears and their desires, painting the picture of their dream outcome. And then at the very end, if at all, they will mention the product by name and the business by name. Sometimes they don't. And so get that into your head that if you're dealing with somebody who's not yet ready to commit to you, you need to approach them appropriately. And that is talking about them, demonstrating interest and understanding in them. So that's number 1. Number 2, use storytelling. The best way to approach somebody who's not overly interested in you is to do so indirectly. If you're too forward, people aren't going to like that. People aren't going to trust that because, again, they're not familiar enough with you and they're not committed enough with you to basically tolerate inconvenience or tolerate being persuaded by your advances. Okay. So number 2 is to use storytelling, because storytelling is an indirect way to communicate. And story allows people to connect emotionally with things in ways that upfront conversation doesn't allow. And so they will be able to build affinity and trust with you in a more indirect way, in a way that, especially if your story is something that they can relate to, and it should relate to them. Otherwise, why are you telling them the story? If you're telling them a story they can relate to, they start to live out inside. They start to live out the experiences that they're writing about. And if you can tie those experiences back to your business or your product or service, they're going to indirectly start to warm up to you and start moving closer and closer towards a buying decision. Number 3, you want to give your prospects, especially in the early stages, you want to give them immense value, and you want to keep giving and keep giving. You want to show them that you're generous, first of all, that you care about them, and that most importantly, you have something that they would find valuable, and you have something that would improve their life. The best way to do that is simply to prove it. And the best way to prove it is just to do it. Start helping them before they give you money. And then that, more than anything, will prove to them whether or not you can actually help them and whether they like you and whether you're the ideal solution for them. So give immense value. A lot of times, businesses will do this in the form of a lead magnet. They'll give away a free ebook or a free audiobook, a free report, some sort of a free coupon, things of that nature. One thing that I came up with, let's say you're a chiropractor and you write up a free report detailing how to do 5 powerful stretches at home that are proven to unlock your mobility and relieve pain. And this has been proven to help, a majority of Americans, something like that. And then at the end of the free report, you have a coupon where somebody can come in and get a free consultation, examination, and adjustment. That's not a bad idea for a lead magnet, to provide value, to demonstrate that you're an authority, to express interest in somebody, and then give them something that could actually change their life. The more that somebody is not ready to buy from you, the more you will have to invest on the front end. And so part of fleshing out your marketing and your advertising strategy is to figure out how much are you willing to give to get one customer to do business with you. And of course, that comes back to how much value does any one customer bring to you. The higher the value of your customer, the more you can spend up front to get them. And so that's just simple mathematics that you have to do in your own business. I can't do that for you unless you hire me as a consultant, and then we can talk. Now, that's number 3. Let's just do a quick recap because it's been a few minutes. So the first one is focus exclusively on your prospects, their fears, and their desires. Number 2 is use storytelling to allow your prospect to connect with you in a more indirect way. And then 3, give immense value before asking for something in return. Okay, number 4, share success stories from people like your prospect who have arrived at the outcome that they desire using your business, your product or service. And so people are going to be much more tolerant of letting somebody else do the bragging for you rather than reading a pamphlet or an ad where you're talking about yourself and about how great you are. If you can get other people to do that for you, somebody who is in a less ready to buy mode is going to be much more tolerant of that. In fact, they crave it, because if you go on Amazon, for example, just watch your own buying habits. What do you look at first when you click on a product? The reviews. People want to see other people having success. They want to be validated in their buying decisions, and they rely heavily, more than ever, on social proof. And so reviews on Amazon are social proof. Testimonials on websites are social proof. And if you can get success stories from the people that you've helped and share them with potential clients, you're going to have the Amazon review effect. And that's exactly what you want. Number 5, unless you are a known and respected authority in your space, you want to avoid talking about yourself, your business, your products, your the story behind how you made this, that product or whatever, unless it has a direct benefit to your prospect, or it has a surprising, intriguing, irresistible angle by which you can approach your prospect. For example, I think it was Claude Hopkins. He legendary advertiser, and one of his biggest, or at least one of his most renowned successes, was taking an otherwise ordinary, average beer company and launching them to becoming, if not the most popular beer in the country, to becoming number 2 or number 3. How? It wasn't through anything that was all that exceptional. All he did was tell the public part of their brewing process that also happens to be the same process used by just about every other brewery in America. The only difference was that nobody else was talking about it. And so Claude Hopkins, he identified this process by which the business was brewing and said, hey, we can use this as a unique angle to approach our audience and give and reveal to them a benefit that they're getting from us that they never knew they were getting. And so that is a unique example where talking about the business and how they do things is actually beneficial to the customer and actually will move them closer to a buying decision. What most people do is they will say something like, hey, our donuts are made with love. Our business is like family. Things like that, where it's like it feels good for the business owner to say it, but it really has no benefit to the prospect. Those are the types of things that you want to keep out of your advertising and keep it as far away from your prospect as possible. Whereas the type of thing that I just described with Claude Hopkins and the beer in the beer business, that would be something that's tolerable. But you have to be careful with it. It's safer to just focus on your prospect, which is why it's rule number 1: focus on the prospect. Okay, finally, number 6. The last way that you can approach and nurture the lower 95% of your audience is to provide them with information related to the product or service that you offer that they would find interesting, entertaining, insightful, but mostly it would need to be valuable. So this is similar to offering them some sort of a lead magnet, but this 6th and final tip is more it's more of an occasion to continually follow up with your audience. Frequency has a lot to do with keeping people moving forward on the buying journey. If they only hear from you 3 or 4 times a year and they only hear from you when you've got a special sale going on, they're not going to have a great relationship with you. It's just going to be purely a transactional relationship, if anything at all. But if you're in the habit of sending them things that they find valuable, asking little or nothing in return, that's going to be a completely different relationship. And they're going to stick around for a long time. And once, God willing, they do convert and become your customer, they will be a much higher value customer and they will have a certain loyalty to you instead of just seeing you as a transactional relationship. One great resource, if you're interested in studying this idea better, this idea of understanding where your prospect is in their mind, understanding buyer's readiness, and then understanding how you can modify your sales message to be congruent with their readiness to buy. There's a great book out there called Great Leads by Michael Masterson. I've read it and it's great. I don't get a kickback if you buy it. But I would recommend that you check that out if you're interested in studying this concept deeper. But otherwise, if you would like my help talking about this, I'd be more than happy to arrange a consultation call. You can go to my website, michaelkassman.com/apply. And if you just specify in the form on that page that you're looking for a consultation, I'll be more than happy to evaluate your application. And then if it makes sense for us to meet up, we can get something on the calendar and we can move forward. Otherwise, feel free to watch some more content on this channel. Check out my blog on my website, michaelkassman.com. Also, if you haven't checked it out, check out my Make Advertising Great Again free report. It'll give you 11 strategies that have been proven to work by Donald Trump to win at least 2 elections, even though he's one of the most reviled men on earth, and he's triggered billions and billions of limp-wristed, purple-haired people all over the place. So check that out. You can get that at michaelkassman.com/MAGA. And if there's nothing else, then I wish that you all have a great night, and I will talk to you again very soon.